Kabir had always believed that every ticking clock carried a story, but he never imagined that one day his own family's future would stop ticking forever. For generations, Kabir's family had repaired broken clocks. While most people saw old machines, his father saw forgotten memories, waiting to come back to life. Every morning, customers walked into the shop carrying broken clocks and walked out carrying smiles. Kabir admired his father more than anyone in the world. One quiet afternoon, Kabir noticed something unusual. His father's hands, the same steady hands that had repaired thousands of clocks, suddenly began to shake. At first, they ignored it, but within days, his father's eyesight became weaker. The tiny gears that had once been so clear now looked like blurry shadows. A doctor's visit confirmed their worst fear. His father was slowly losing his eyesight. The man who had spent his entire life bringing broken clocks back to life could no longer see them. The little workshop slowly became quieter. The familiar sound of ticking clocks disappeared. Dust began settling on shelves that were once filled with customers. People stopped coming. Some whispered that the old shop had finally reached its end. Every passing day felt heavier than the last. One evening, Kabir overheard his father speaking softly to his mother. "I think it's time to close the shop." Those words hit Kabir harder than anything he had ever heard. The shop wasn't just a business, it was his family's history. That night, Kabir couldn't sleep. He walked into the workshop, turned on a single desk lamp, and looked around. Hundreds of clocks surrounded him. It felt as if they were silently waiting for someone to bring them back to life. Kabir took a deep breath. "I won't let this shop disappear." He had never repaired a clock before. He didn't know where to begin, but he knew one thing. If he wanted to save his family's future, he had to learn. Night after night, Kabir practiced in secret while his parents slept. The first clock broke completely. The second wouldn't tick. The third stopped after only a few seconds. Some nights he wanted to give up, but every failure taught him something new. Instead of counting broken clocks, he started counting lessons. Just as Kabir began believing in himself, the workshop door slowly opened. An elderly man walked in carrying a beautiful antique clock wrapped in an old cloth. "I've been told your father repaired clocks better than anyone," he said. "I heard he can no longer work." He looked at Kabir. "Can you?" Kabir's heart raced. He had waited for this moment. But now that it had arrived, fear almost convinced him to say no. Instead, he took a deep breath. "I'll try." That night, the workshop lights stayed on long after the rest of the town had gone to sleep. Kabir carefully opened the antique clock. Every tiny gear, every delicate spring, every fragile screw demanded patience. Outside, rain tapped gently against the windows. Inside, the only sound was Kabir's steady breathing. Hours passed. Then, he placed the final gear into position. He slowly wound the clock. Silence. For one long moment, nothing happened. Then, tick, tick, tick. The workshop came alive once again. Kabir smiled with tears in his eyes. His father, sitting quietly in the next room, heard the familiar sound. He slowly stood up, walked toward the workshop, and placed his hand on Kabir's shoulder. Without seeing the repaired clock, he knew. "My son, you didn't just repair a clock. You repaired our hope." Word spread throughout the town. Customers returned. The little workshop filled with life once again. Years later, Kabir became one of the finest clock restoration experts in the country. But no matter how successful he became, he always kept his father's old toolbox on his workbench, not as a tool, but as a reminder that every second, every failure, and every act of courage had led him to this moment. Life is like a clock. You cannot turn its hands backward, but every new second gives you another chance to move forward. Don't let failure convince you that your time is over. Sometimes, the moment you refuse to give up is the exact moment your future begins to tick. Every second is a new opportunity. What you do with it is your choice.